All right, let me try this homework here. What do we got? Chapter 3. Follow along with me. Hopefully this works. This is in what, week 2 here. I'm going to start this exam. Hopefully it all works out. We'll see. It's be embarrassing if I don't get them all right. Question 1. A decrease in population would shift the demand curve to the left. And again, less people buying stuff is not a good news. Bad news will shift these curves to the left, and that will be true. Question 2. A good for which demand decreases when income decreases is known as basically people that want any more, the price should go down. That would be a normal good. Again, we have all these different types of products. But mostly I'm going to talk about normal goods here during this semester. Question 3. A government sometimes creates an excess supply for a product by setting a minimum price at which the product may be sold to consumers. This is called a price, basically a ceiling. Oh, excuse me, price floor. I'm mixing myself up. Basically, it's setting a minimum price. It was a price may be sold to the consumers. With agriculture, this happens all the time, but we'll talk about that. Governments will set prices for, again, different products for agriculture. Question 4. An increase in demand will cause the equilibrium price and quantity to rise. And again, think of it, if demand shifts to the right, there's a new E2, right? And again, if I got my supply line on there too, and again, it does increase the price and the quantity. That is true. Question 5. An increase in supply of a product results when, okay, this is again good news, so it's going to shift it to the right. So it's got to be some good news. Taxes on the product are increased. That's not good news, the first one. The companies that produce the good have a higher material cost. That's not good news if costs are higher. Technological innovation are introduced in the manufacturing process. Yeah, here's some good news, right? There's a breakthrough in technology, right? Government reduces subsidies. Again, that's bad news for a producer. So only the good one there if it's going to move it. Again, increase supply. Question 6. Assuming that coffee and tea are substitutes, again, I can either do coffee or tea, depending what I feel like. When the price of coffee goes up, a lot of people are going to switch to the substitute to tea. So the demand for tea will increase. Fine. Question 7. Who we got? We got Molly here. We got Ryan. Again, remember the other day I was showing all the scattered points on the demand curve going down, because basically when you put a lot of people together, it puts a lot of points on the line, and you basically do the best fits. But here, these are Molly and Ryan are the individual demand curves for the compact disc per month. Assuming Molly and Ryan are the only consumers in this market, what's the market quantity demanded for a price of 3? So basically we're going to see for a price of 3, Molly is going to want how many? 12, right? Ryan at the price of 3 is going to want 8. So 8 plus 12 is 20. So it's kind of a silly question, but it kind of shows you how these demand curves are created by putting a whole bunch of people together. And again, why you take statistics and do market research. Anyway, question 8. Be prepared for this one on the midterm. Again, where I got my supply and demand meet. There's my equilibrium point. But here, illustrates the supply and demand for t-shirts. If the actual price of t-shirts is $15, so I'm going to look here, the price $15, boom, that's above my equilibrium, right? So with a high price, basically, not many people are going to be demanding t-shirts, so there's going to be excess supply. And I can see where, again, 15 meets the demand curve is at 2. Only 2 t-shirts will be demanded. The supply, though, is going to be at 10. So the difference between the 2 and the 10 is 8. There's an excess supply of 8 t-shirts. Hopefully that makes sense. If the price was $7, again, the demand would be really high, right, for 12, but then the supply would be 4. There'd be a shortage between 4 and 12, which should be 8, right? I think. My math is getting worse and worse. Question 9. I'm moving on. This figure up above illustrates the demand for tacos. A successful advertising campaign, so again, successful advertising campaign, it shifted it to the right, is what you should think, right? To sell tacos would bring about a movement from, so I'm looking from what, D0 to D1, D1 to D2, one of those choices. So it's D0 to D1, right? This is D0 to D1 is a shift in this whole demand curve because something good happens. And this happens a lot with marketing. This is what you want to do when you have a successful marketing campaign. It basically shift demand to the right. That branding stuff. All right, question 10. This illustrates the supply of tacos, a decrease in the supply of tacos. So again, this is obviously going back to the left, right? For some reason, people aren't buying tacos. So it's S2 to S1 or S1 to S0. So this is going to be what? S2 to S1, right? For question 10. Fine. Again, bad news. We don't know why, but people just don't want to buy tacos anymore. Next one, question 11. This illustrates the supply of tacos, a technological advance. Is this the same as the one up above? No, that was a successful parking campaign, but the same sort of thing, right? It's going to shift it to the right, right? They make it cheaper to produce. So again, if I ask you a question on the midterm where you see there's a technological advance in the production, boom, that again, it's always the sellers that initiated it. And it's good news for the sellers. So it's got to be from S0 to S1 or S1 to S2. So it's S0 to S2, right? It's just shifting it way to the right here. Must have been a great leap in the advancement of tacos. But all right, I'm moving on. Question 12. In the event of excess supply in the coffee market, right? There's too much coffee being produced. There's a bumper crop, and this happens all the time in all kinds of different commodities, especially agricultural products. The price of coffee is certain, and there's too much coffee in the market. So this is where the price of coffee will decrease, correct? Because it shifts to the right, and the price will go down. This is where you get a question like this on the test in the midterm, you draw it a little bit because it's excess supply. Boom, it will shift it to the right. It's good news for those coffee producers by making more coffee, but the price went down. Question 13, what we got here? The law of supply states there's a positive relationship between price and quantity, right? Again, this is Ceratus Parabolus is all things else being the same. So there is a positive, is upward going line, right, with the supply curve. So this is true. Question 14. The market demand curve. What does the market demand it? Actually, it's the first one. It shows the relationship between the price of a good and the quantity that all consumers together are willing to buy, right? Okay, we got P on the y-axis, we got Q on the x-axis. And it's a combination of all of the people. I'm going up above. Like we have 1,000 different Mollies and Ryans here, puts them all together. That creates the demand curve. There's also the same thing for the supply. All right, let me go back down. I hope I'm not making anybody dizzy. The market demand curve shows the relationship between by all consumer and everything else being equal. That's the same thing as up above. I don't know why I have this twice. Question 16. All right. Figure 3.5 illustrates the set of supply and demand curves for hamburgers. An increase in supply, and again, an increase in supply, the whole supply curve shifts, right? So it's going to go from, what is this, S1 to S2. And an increase in the quantity demanded, again, this is that semantics, that's movement along the same demand curve. So the demand isn't really shifting, it's just movement along this demand curve because supply line is moving completely. So this has got to be A to B or D to C on this one. So it's what did I say? A to B, so it's got to be A to B, right? For question 16. Again, the whole demand shift is moving to the right. And there's movement along the demand curve, but on that same curve, so that's a change in the quantity demanded. All right, number 17, it's got to be the same sort of thing. This illustrates a set of supply and demand curves for hamburgers, a decrease in demand. So again, here demand is shifting to the left, right? It's not a decrease in quantity demanded, which would be movement where the supply would line would move. Here's a decrease in demand. So demand shifting left. So I already know it's going to be A to D or B to C. But the rest of the question, though, it's a decrease in the quantity supplied. And again, that's just telling me there's movement along the same supply curve. So it's either A to D or B to C. So I see B to C there. That's got to be correct. Let's hope I got this all right, or I'm going to have to do it all over again. I don't think I made a stupid mistake. Let's see. I got it right. 70 out of 170. So just follow along with this. Hopefully it works out all right. Right? Luckily I had Harry Potter here to help me along. This is my old, used to be child's room. Still in the Harry Potter. But email me if you have any questions.